Hi, I'm Andy Thayer. Welcome to the Gay Liberation Network show on CAN TV. Tonight with me is Marcia Bernsten, who wears a number of different hats. Marcia is very active in the Illinois Coalition for Justice, Peace, and the Environment, is on the steering committee. Also with the North Shore Coalition for, help me out here.
North Shore Coalition for Peace and Justice, North Suburban Peace Initiative, and the Peace, Justice, and Environment Project.
Okay, and tonight, as you saw on your screen, we're going to be talking about the threat of a war on Iran. We in the Gay Liberation Network, we deal with a number of different issues, so-called gay-specific issues, as well as issues of general politics. And the reason why this actually is sort of a dual subject for us is that when you look at the cost of the current wars on Iraq and Afghanistan, you're talking millions of dollars. I believe it's something like $5 million out of every single ward, per ward in the city of Chicago, just to pay for the current war on Iraq and Afghanistan. And now there's talk about a war on Iran, which is a country 3 times as populous as Iraq. Marcia, could you tell me what your general impressions of the threat of a war on Iran are?
Oh, goodness. I mean, the threat level goes up and down, it seems, daily, depending upon who has been most recently in Washington or who's been ousted from wherever. You know, it seems like it's changing almost on a daily basis. The latest thing that came out in Salon today from Juan Cole suggests that they're finally beginning to get some sense in D.C., and that Juan thinks that it's less likely at this point that there will be an attack just because of the huge economic ramifications for the United States and for the rest of the world if there were more disruption in oil prices and oil supply.
Mm-hmm. And yet, unfortunately, just this past week we had ABC News reporting that supposedly Barack Obama, during his visit to the Middle East, he came back, talked to leading congressional Democrats in a confidential session, and said that if the current negotiation round fails, that Israel would most likely attack Iran. And I think the interesting thing to note about that is he didn't say, oh, this is horrible, let alone if Israel does this, that the United States would cut off military aid for blatant violation of the United Nations Charter and any number of international treaties. And so the threat is still very much out there in spite of what happened in terms of Salon.
I know. Today. It's the threat. You know, the threat level varies on a daily basis, which is, I think, one of the things that's so frustrating, is that it vacillates so much. I mean, one of the things that our military guys know that it would be disastrous, that they don't have the manpower, they don't have enough equipment, they don't have enough anything to...
Not that if they did have all that equipment and manpower, it would be a good thing.
No, absolutely. I mean, you and I are on the same page on that one.
Yes. But just more opportunity for United States mayhem.
Right, precisely. But I guess it's just heartening this much to know that the mayhem makers understand that there's not enough
war material.
Right, there's not enough war material for them to really have a good time doing this. So that, but the threat is still onerous and something that we have to watch on a daily basis.
Well, and unfortunately for those who think that this is just a matter of they'll do the logical thing, they'll launch a war if they think they have the resources for it, and so forth. I think it's very important to remember the lessons of history, where then President Nixon launched a war on Cambodia and Laos even when they knew that the Vietnam War, so far as the United States was concerned, was lost. And yet they launched that widening of the war. And so I think we can't be complacent about this. And unfortunately, many people are saying that we should be complacent depending on, who gets elected or whatever. But, then again, you look at what each of the candidates are saying. We've got a situation where Barack Obama has threatened to bomb Iran. A couple of years ago, has threatened to invade Pakistan.
Right.
Is talking now, along with McCain, about a increased troop level in Afghanistan.
Correct.
And an overall increase in the number of troops the United States can call on.
Right.
So
I mean, and even there, that makes, if there's anything history has shown, it's that nobody wins a war in Afghanistan.
Right.
No
right.
outside party, anyway. It has never been done. So if we put in another 10,000, another 40,000 troops, it won't make any difference. We still are not going to have a positive outcome, and that would beg us to decide what a positive outcome would look like, which is not for us to decide. It's Afghanistan's country.
Yes, and that's what the Russians before us and the United States today always conveniently seem to forget. I'm bringing up this graphic here right now, Marcia, because I think this says this is the world perhaps from an Iranian viewpoint as opposed to the United States viewpoint that we're all too familiar with, and I'm not sure all of that wording can be viewable on your screens at home, but let me just break it out for you. You've got nuclear-armed Russia just to the north of Iran. You've got nuclear-armed India and Pakistan to the east. You've got nuclear-armed United States warships to the south of Iran, and you've got nuclear-armed Israel to the west. Boy, I wonder why Iran might be wanting to develop a nuclear program. I mean, the hypocrisy of it, the United States is the only country that's ever used nuclear weapons.
Are you sure about these borders now, Andy? I mean, McCain thinks that,
yes, they should be reinterpreted. And all levity aside, we've got a situation where very respectable sources, such as the New Yorker's Seymour Hersh, has pointed out that the United States has got troops on the ground, undercover troops on the ground inside Iran. That's a blatant war violation, a blatant violation of sovereignty, and yet the United States is complaining about the Iranians. I think we really need to look at how the shoe is on the other foot.
I think it's important to remember, too, that within Iran, their nuclear program is totally within the bounds of what they are able to do legally under the NPT.
Well, and even if it was in violation of the NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty, God knows the United States never violated any treaties.
Well, of course
Sorry,
not. Of course not.
That's humor for those of you who don't get it. Marcia, how do you feel about how party politics are playing out in this whole issue? What's your viewpoint on that?
Oh, goodness. I mean, the party politics...
Well, we've got one candidate who's supposedly the peace candidate. Are we seeing much evidence for that these days?
No, I would say that we are not. I think one of the things that bothers me most about this, the issue with Iran, is that we're somehow trying to hold Iran to a different standard that is irrational,
Well, it's very whatever the United States goes. I mean, to paraphrase the first George Bush, and the arrogance of it. I mean, people wonder why the United States is so reviled around the world. This whole notion that we're first amongst equals.
Correct.
Doesn't go down very well.
Yeah. I mean, Iran is a sovereign country. It's hundreds. I mean, like, it's so old. What, 3,000 years old or something?
Yeah.
Somewhere in that vicinity, that Persia has been there as a as a sovereign nation. And so for us upstarts with all of 200 years or something
Yeah.
along those lines under our belt to suggest that we would know better, and that just to misunderstand what would happen in Iran should there be an attack.
Yeah. Yeah.
When a people are attacked, whether
They
like,
rally around
right,
the
whether they
leader.
like their current leadership or not.
Right, right. So if you want to destroy the democratic opposition in Iran, the surest way to
The
do
surest-
it is to
yeah,
attack
th-
Iran.
That would be the quickest way, and the quickest way to just have jihadists from here
Yeah.
to eternity.